My and the Minister of Defense's positions on the Israel Defense Forces are clear and unchanged. Our fighters in southern Lebanon have the freedom to act to thwart any threat against them or the residents of the north. The IDF has no restrictions regarding this. I support them. The whole country is behind them, and I firmly believe that we will remain in the security zone in southern Lebanon as long as necessary to protect the citizens living in the north.
Netanyahu made it clear that Israel will not leave southern Lebanon as long as the threat remains. And the message came at a time when Iran agreed to return to the table under pressure with nuclear inspections at the center of the agreement. And the Strait of Hormuz once again as a decisive factor. The movement happened this Monday, June 22, 2026, after the talks in Bergenstock, Switzerland, where Donald Trump's team, with J.D. Vance at the forefront, dealt with Iranian representatives with mediation from Qatar and Pakistan. The Tehran regime tried to catch its breath after months of strain, but ended up taking a path that favors what Israel had been demanding for a long time: heavy surveillance over the nuclear program, control over frozen funds, and pressure to prevent Hezbollah from using Lebanon as a base against residents in northern Israel. Netanyahu responded, just as his base expected. Israel accepts Trump's diplomacy, but does not put its security in the hands of any international committee. The Israel Defense Forces will have the freedom to act against direct or emerging threats in southern Lebanon, and the security zone will remain for as long as necessary. Did Iran give in out of weakness, calculation, or fear of further consequences? What did Netanyahu see in this agreement that made him keep troops in Lebanon? How did Trump pressure Tehran while preserving Israel's right to defend itself? I'll explain shortly. If you like this kind of straightforward, no-nonsense content, consider subscribing because we have videos like this every day. Netanyahu made it clear that his order and that of Israel's Defense Minister Katz hasn't changed. The Israeli troops in southern Lebanon have full freedom to thwart any threat against the soldiers and against the residents of the north. The decision was made in Israel with a direct focus on the Lebanese border, because Hezbollah remains the main Iranian tool in that region. For Netanyahu, there is no real peace if the group could reorganize, rebuild tunnels, hide weapons, bring launchers closer, and once again put pressure on Israeli families who have already lived under alert for too long. Netanyahu's political victory appears precisely at this point. The agreement was not born out of trust in Iran. It was born out of pressure. Tehran entered the talks after losing military ground, suffering isolation, facing economic strain, and seeing the Strait of Hormuz become a problem that could backfire on the regime itself. Trump also entered the center of the negotiation by arguing that everyone knows Iran will agree to heavy weapons inspections to ensure nuclear honesty for a long time. That statement became political ammunition to show that American pressure did not come up empty. The regime that previously resisted inspections now seems pushed to accept international oversight. Netanyahu spent years warning that the Iranian nuclear program was the existential threat. Now the agreement itself puts inspection, enriched material, and nuclear control as the main topic. The Israeli president says that Israel deserves peace and tranquility, and that this is all the nation asks for. The statement carries weight because it sums up the drama of northern Israel, Gaza, and the Iranian threat without the need for exaggeration. From Iran to Lebanon and Gaza, Israel's enemies are trying to rebuild and rearm. This is Jerusalem's main accusation. It's not just about agreements on paper. The Israeli fear is that each pause becomes time for the enemy to buy weapons, reorganize command, and prepare the next attack. Israel Katz was even more direct. The defense minister stated that the Israeli Defense Forces have complete freedom to operate decisively against any threat.
The safety of civilians and Israeli forces is above any other consideration. The commanders and fighters of the IDF have the full support of the Prime Minister, myself, and the IDF leadership. And total freedom of action to act decisively against any threat in southern Lebanon, in the Gaza Strip, and anywhere it is necessary to protect the state of Israel. Our fighters and commanders act with bravery, removing threats and protecting the residents of the north and south and all the citizens of Israel. The Israel Defense Forces will remain in the security zone in Lebanon to protect the northern communities, neutralize threats, and destroy terrorist infrastructures.
This statement ties the diplomatic agreement to the military reality. While Vance speaks of a foundation for a final agreement, Israel maintains troops, drones, intelligence, and readiness on the ground. Diplomacy is taking place at a table in Switzerland, but Israel's security is still being decided in the hills and villages of southern Lebanon. The main tension lies in the fact that negotiations with Iran also involve Lebanon. The regime wants to use the Lebanese front as a bargaining chip. It wants to reduce the pressure on Hezbollah and push Israel out of the security zone. Netanyahu did not fall for this trap. In practice, he is saying that no agreement between Washington, Tehran, and mediators will be strong enough to prevent Israel from acting if Hezbollah threatens again. Ben-Gvir entered the crisis with an even tougher stance. The Israeli Minister of National Security criticized the idea of giving in to international pressure, and he argued that the response should be an attack on Beirut if Lebanon allows its territory to continue being used as a base for terrorism against Israel. His statement was harsh and sparked a reaction, but it reflects a faction within the Israeli government that does not believe in a ceasefire, while Hezbollah still maintains an armed structure. For Ben-Gvir, the lives of Israeli citizens come before any power calculation. Ben-Gvir's statement also shows the internal pressure on Netanyahu. Even with Trump involved in negotiating the agreement, part of the Israeli right wants stronger action. Ben-Gvir said that Israel appreciates its American friends and loves Trump, but the ultimate responsibility for Israeli security lies with Israel. This sentence is important because it defines the relationship between Jerusalem and Washington. Trump can negotiate, Vance can organize, Qatar and Pakistan can mediate, but the one who pays the price for a failure at the border is the Israeli resident who lives near Lebanon. Netanyahu tries to balance this equation. He doesn't break with Trump because American pressure helped push Iran toward inspections and commitments. At the same time, he doesn't hand over control of the border for a promise from Iran. That's the victory that appears on the board. Israel gains military freedom in Lebanon and sees the regime agree to discuss points that it previously considered unacceptable impositions. The 14-point proposal mentioned in the news talks about a commitment not to develop nuclear weapons and to resolve the fate of the enriched material under the supervision of the International Atomic Energy Agency. For the general public, this means that Iran's nuclear program is no longer just a promise of peaceful use and starts to face more concrete oversight. For Netanyahu, this has always been the central point. The regime can make nice speeches, but without strong inspection, there is no trust. Iran tries to deny that it has surrendered. Tehran usually says that its nuclear program is peaceful and that its decisions go through the regime's National Security Council. But the political reality is colder. Whoever accepts inspectors after resisting, whoever negotiates frozen assets after suffering sanctions, and whoever tries to include Lebanon in the bargain is negotiating because they were pressured. The regime only backs down when it faces real costs. The presence of Ghalibaf in the negotiations reinforces the level of pressure. This is not a small backstage conversation. It's the president of the Iranian parliament moving amid a regional crisis to discuss coordination with Oman about one of the most important maritime routes on the planet. Meanwhile, Israel kept its focus, preventing any loophole from being used to rearm Hezbollah. Lebanon has become the most immediate test of this agreement. If Hezbollah backs down, the security zone could reduce the risk to northern Israel. If Hezbollah tries to rearm or attack, Netanyahu has already given authorization. The Israel Defense Forces take action. This clarity is what the Israeli right demands from the government. No waiting for a new trauma before reacting. No trusting a document while the enemy builds up structures next to the border. Trump comes out of this round trying to show that he achieved what previous governments could not. Getting Iran into a negotiation where oil, frozen assets, Hormuz, and nuclear inspections are all part of the same package. Now the Iranian regime needs to prove in practice what it promises at the table. It needs to accept real inspections and stop using Lebanon as an extension of its war against Israel. Netanyahu has already chosen his side. An agreement is only valid if it comes with security. Without security, Israel will act. I'm Milson Alves, an international affairs specialist, and my purpose is to keep you well informed with the truth every day. The news links are in the video description. Like the video, subscribe, and check the comments at the end to stay engaged with the Milson Alves community.